In this morning's Health Watch, we're talking ultra-processed foods, a topic that's been getting a lot of attention lately, including from our government. More than half the calories we eat come from ultra-processed foods. Our next guest calls them, quote, the main driver of disease, disability, and death in the United States. Dr. Dariush Mozaffarian is the director of the Food is Medicine Institute at Tufts University. His new book is called Food is Medicine, and it's due out in October. Doctor, good morning. Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here.
So we were just talking during the commercial about ultra-processed foods versus processed foods. I mentioned that tuna fish is processed foods. Canned vegetables are considered processed foods, but you define ultra-processed foods as what?
So, we've always processed foods throughout human history, and processing is okay. But in the last, 20 or 30 years, we've made foods, unrecognizable. And so ultra-processed foods are basically made with processes or additives that you wouldn't find in a home kitchen. They're molecularly disassembled often with, the actual molecules of food put back together, which loses all the natural food structure. And so you can't actually tell, what the original food was. They'll have contaminants from the packaging. They're often very, very high in additives and preservatives and other negative compounds. And they've lost often, because of the processing, kind of the natural bounty of nature, the really healthy nutrients and prebiotic fibers that nourish us and nourish our gut.
So what does that evidence, that scientific evidence, tell us about what those foods, ultra-processed foods, do to our health?
So I think what's really important is the processing itself, independent of kind of the common nutrients, has bad effects on our health. And there have been now over 100 studies around the world that have shown that these foods, when consumed, lead to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, dementia, poor mental health, even depression, anxiety. And 3 controlled trials, randomized trials, showing that people overeat without even noticing it. And so they're basically many of the modern ills of humanity relate to ultra-processed foods.
But your comment about the main driver of disease, disability, and death in this country, that's what really caught my eye when we were talking about it in the meeting yesterday. Yep. Isn't part of the problem, too, though, it's less expensive, and that's why people gravitate to it?
Yeah, this is one of the challenges right now, is we've driven food to be as cheap as possible. And when you put cheap ingredients in it, the often commodity crops that might have also pesticides or other contaminants, and they don't actually taste that good with these really cheap ingredients.
What do you want us to do?
Well, I think we need to first have transparency, and we need to be able to tell Americans what ultra-processed foods are. It's very complicated if you go in a grocery store and look, and there's a cereal, 2 cereals, one might be ultra-processed and one might not be. And to have to look at all the ingredients and have a PhD in nutrition and MD is just not fair. So I think we really need to first define them, and I would like to see a label, just a transparency, a label of which foods are ultra-processed and which are not.
Well, so speaking of labels, I think the thing that we always hear is if you look at the label and you see something that you can't pronounce,
or
then you shouldn't do it.
Or even more than 5 ingredients, I've
right.
heard,
It's like, don't do that. What's your take on this, though?
It's a good general rule, but like most things in nutrition's complicated, and so it doesn't work perfectly. And so as one example, you might see corn syrup. You can obviously read that, but that's a marker of ultra-processing if you have high fructose corn syrup. You might see alpha tocopherol, and you're like, oh, what's that? That's just vitamin E, which is okay. Which is okay to put a vitamin in a food. So vitamins in particular, I think, will mix consumers up. The 5 ingredient rule is actually pretty good. That's actually probably a decent rule. Most ultra-processed foods are going to have a long list. But if you have just enriched wheat flour, which isn't necessarily ultra-processed, but just has vitamins in it, you'll see this long list of vitamins, and that might scare people off from a healthy food.
What are you eating?
I would say I eat, we were talking about kind of the traditional Mediterranean diet. I eat sort of, fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans and fish. And what's amazing is if you can eat that way, if you have the knowledge and time and ability to do it, it's delicious, it tastes better, you feel better. I think most Americans are walking around feeling sick most of the time because of their food, and it's become the new normal.
Do you think that, does the body, help me understand something, can the body distinguish between high fructose corn syrup and natural sugar?
So there's a lot of controversy about that, and I think on average, most sugars probably have similar effects. There is some evidence that honey or agave or some of these other more kind of sweeteners that aren't just sugar do have different effects and are probably better for you. But probably, pure regular table sugar and high fructose corn syrup aren't that different. Ultra-processed food, it's the whole package. It's everything in them together that seems to be causing harm.
Well, Dr. Dariush Mozaffarian, you're giving me something to aspire
I know.
to, hearing your diet.
So you're
Fit
saying
tonight.
get rid of the Pop-Tarts and the Twinkies. That's what you're saying.
Never.
Yeah, not what I'd recommend. Yeah.
I hear you.
All right, doctor, thank you so much.